Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. This is episode 102, where I had the pleasure of having Trina Casey on the podcast. She is an American expat now living in Amsterdam. We talked about a number of things about how her journey from basically LA all the way over to Amsterdam and what that entailed. Also, we talked about her journey as a life coach as well, and her podcast, which is EQ Above IQ. Got to say, it was a very interesting conversation, and yeah, she was a joy to have on the show. Look forward to having her back again sometime soon. But please sit back, enjoy the show, and have a great day. Yeah, peace. Yeah. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. This is episode 102, where I have the immense pleasure to have Trina Casey on today. She is a life coach, emotional intelligence coach. She has started her own publishing company. This is Real Life Books Publishing, and she has a new podcast. Well, a podcast which is EQ Above IQ. How are you today?
Hello. Wow, what an intro. I'm good. I'm
No worries.
good.
Excellent, excellent.
Good.
Yes, you are in sunny Amsterdam. I say that with one of those rare moments. Yeah.
Yes, I've been in Amsterdam for the last 4 years when I escaped America in the Trump world that it is. So hopefully with the election will no longer be an issue. But yes, I've been in Amsterdam for 4 years now.
Yes, it's not looking good for the old man at this present time. it's like, it's like, wow. Like, this is the thing. You've been over in Amsterdam for 4 years, doing what you do with business and such. Do you still have the right? You're still a citizen of the United States,
Oh
or
yeah, oh yeah. I'm still
oh,
a U.S. citizen. I'm here on a visa. We have our a few companies in the U.S.
mhm.
that my ex and I ran, and so we are now. I decided here that I wanted to start my own company, so I started this Real Life Books publishing
Mhm.
and coaching because I think it was time for people to start learning emotional intelligence.
Mm. So, like, this is the thing. So, what was the sort of motivation apart from the Orange Man of Trump to basically leave the States and start a business here over in Amsterdam?
Yeah. Well, I had traveled all over the world previously.
Mm.
I was an English teacher. Um, I had lived in Italy, Indonesia, and what happened was I just had this beautiful little boy, and I did not want to raise him in the United States with the weight of being a black male in America. I wanted him to have some freedom
Mm-hmm.
and not grow up with that heavy pressure. And then on top of that, he did get bullied here. And so every night I would tell him nighttime bedtime stories and make them up and discuss what he had told me and what he was feeling and make up a story where it came out the best possible, emotionally intelligent possible way for of a solution. So he started encouraging, Mom, you should write these stories down. I want to tell my friends. And so he was sort of my muse for starting to write the children's books that I write and start the publishing company because I had been previously published by a company and it just I wanted my autonomy. I wanted the freedom to do with my books what I wanted. I wanted to express that the way I wanted. And I didn't want to fall in line with the programming that is, the world.
Mm. So you just basically having the freedom to work on what you wanted to work on, basically editing it the way you wanted it and presenting
Exactly.
it the way you want it in the world. Like,
Exactly.
wow. Like, this is the thing. Okay, you've been previously published, as you mentioned. So, like, what have been some of the like experiences? What has been your experience doing this as your by yourself? Because it's one thing
Woo.
being under a company, and like, you know what I mean? It's another thing doing it, you know?
Yeah, it was an immense but pleasurable and very purposeful challenge.
Mm,
I had to learn the publishing industry, and all the gatekeepers around that. I had to learn how to format a book and edit a book, and of course, I hired some experts here and there uh, who illustrated the book,
hmm.
because even though art is something that I love to do, it was just too much. So I luckily found a fabulous illustrator who was in Russia and was also biracial, like my son. So it was like everything kind of fell into perfect, like, synchronicity.
Mm.
And yeah, it's a challenge, and I do most of the work myself. And one day I hope to be able to outsource that, but I find pleasure doing it. So
Mm. I can imagine like picking up all these new skills. There must have like for any time anyone does an endeavor where they're doing something new for themselves, there's always that one thing which just completely comes out of left field where you're like, yeah, you got to do this. And it's like, what? It's like, I didn't see that happening. I didn't see that coming. What did you have something like that? Or was it just straightforward, would you say?
I would say it was just spring forward, and also the one thing that I find the most cumbersome and necessary is the social media aspect.
Hmm.
It actually takes me the time that I have to invest in posting and all that stuff really took me out of my genius,
Mm.
which is the writing piece and the teaching piece and the coaching piece. And so um, after a while, with the advice of a business coach, because I think coaches need coaches, and she told me, you know what, you really should have a podcast, or you should really be taking this out into the classrooms. And I love to teach. I was a corporate trainer as well, when I lived in Montreal. And it's just something that's just a part of who I am. I love to teach. I love to heal, dare I say. And it's just kind of the essence of who I am.
Mm. Excellent, excellent. No, I when you say coaches need coaches, yeah, like I think it's always one of those things where it's we often, how can I put it? We often can advise others, but we seldom take that advice ourselves. If
Oh,
you and yeah, like taking on a coach which said, yeah, start up a podcast. Um, like, yeah, the world of podcasting, I've got to say, it's a growing thing. And like, I
mhm,
think it's still in its infancy, even though you've got some people which are like huge, big, and like ruling the world and everything like this right now. But like there is still lots of opportunity there. And I think
mhm.
you get so much more from a podcast rather than sort of like, yeah, a Instagram post or like for God's sakes, not Twitter, but post something on Twitter. But yeah. So what has been like your experience with podcasting now? Because you've done about, is it 10 episodes or is it more?
No, no, I'll be recording actually today, episode 24.
Ah,
So I'm in a second season. I finished up the last season, and took a couple weeks off
mhm.
to decide what direction I wanted season two to go, and to do some work, because I'm also working on creating a module based program to teach these principles. So the name of my podcast is EQ Above IQ: Parenting with Emotional Intelligence and Healing the Inner Child. And so, what I do on the podcast is I talk about what's going on in the world, and I apply the principles of emotional intelligence. And also, I teach parents how to reparent themselves through parenting their own children. So I believe that we are all children walking around in adult suits, pretending we have it all figured out while we spread our trauma to everyone we touch, including our children, especially our children. And so I want people to come to an awareness about that and really understand that the only way that we're going to shift the major problems that we have in the world right now is to learn these principles. And once we do learn these principles, I think a lot of the things that we struggle with on the daily life will subside.
Mm, okay. And like with like this being your second season, like what has been the sort of growing experience for you doing podcasts? Because I think everyone who gets into that realm,
Hmm.
they expect one thing, but they always get something else out of it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know what? For me, it was getting out of the comfort zone of just hearing my own voice. I had always been encouraged to say, you have a great voice. You should really be on the radio, or, oh, your voice is so soothing. And I'd be like, where do you hear? But it's that self-awareness piece
Yeah.
that, we have been programmed and taught to avoid liking and looking at ourselves in
Mm,
a positive light. It's just like an ongoing, okay, you're not enough, you're not good enough, you know. So I had to get out of that self-talk, the negative self-talk myself, and just say, okay, I'm just going for it, let's see what happens.
mm.
Like, life is about experiences, and you know and so far it's been great. I love the response that I'm getting, so it's good.
Yeah, no. And when you mentioned like the negative self-talk, I think there's a lot of people which out there could be they could be doing so much more with their lives, but the whole thing is, I call it the voice of reason. It basically, it's it is that negative voice what lives in your head. But if you've got wise to many of the tricks it can give you, then
Mhm.
all of a sudden it starts using reason against you, where it'll be like, oh yeah, oh man, look, you've been doing great. You've been working this hard, so hard. You've been pushing yourself so well. Look, you're ahead of everyone else. You don't need to do this. Don't
Yeah,
worry about it. Sit down. Don't worry. Take it easy. And then it's like always constantly there, trying to sort of trip
yeah,
you up.
yeah,
And basically, you're like, one day. And there's days where it'll catch you napping, and you'll go,
yeah,
yeah, you're right. I do need to sit down. Yeah, I don't need to stress myself out. And you lose a day, 2 days, week, sometimes months if you haven't snapped out of it properly.
right.
Yeah. So, like, what have you used to combat that sort of little voice?
Well, that I call that the voice of procrastination.
Uh-huh.
And judgment, self-judgment. It's also the childhood voice. It's the voice of, um, like I said, I'm not enough, or I'm going to fail. It's the fear.
Mm,
And I tried to break that in myself at a very young age. And being a woman of color too, a
yeah.
Black woman, we always get that messaging that, we're not this enough, we're not that enough. And so I tried to break that a long time ago. So I'm most of the time, for me, it's time management more than anything. Um, being a mom and trying to juggle all those responsibilities and raise another human being, that is more of the challenge for me.
Hmm.
And also giving myself the compassion to say, I need space, or I need to do that without the guilt, without the mommy guilt.
Hmm.
And for years, um I had given up my career, to raise my child, and it was so conflicting, because it's like I love my kid,
Hmm.
but it wasn't gratifying, and I had to really come to terms with that. So um, during my separation, I had to make a choice, you know, do I continue this and make this my only focus, or do I go back to me?
Mm.
And it was I'm very glad that I started going back to me. And actually my son is much happier too. You know, his encouragement with the books kind of just domino effect to other aspects of my life, and kind of like the reblossoming
Mm.
of Trina. And yeah, yeah, it for me, that voice is always combated with the voice of compassion.
Mm.
You know, it's the the self-awareness, you know, piece. You know, in the EQ world, you have 5 principles, and self-awareness is the first one, and that's when you face your past, you deal with emotions that come along with that, you recognize what your triggers are, you understand actually other people's emotions, whether they're yours or not,
Yeah.
you know. And so that piece right there is the beginning stage. And once you start to do that, and I started doing that with my ex-partner, I realized, like, whoa, I've been gaslighted for a long time, man. What, this is not cool. This is not who I am. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. You know what I mean? Like, he's telling me stuff about myself that nobody else has ever. Wait a, you know. So that is the awakening, the self-awareness. And then you go into the self-regulation piece, and that's when I started doing meditation more. I've been a Buddhist for 25 years anyway, but I realized that my practice had really subsided, you know, with early rises and not getting enough sleep and all that stuff. Um, and so I went back to that practice of meditation every morning, um, just getting some time for me, journaling. My writing is a great outlet for that for me, that expression. And then the next step is motivation, and I had to figure out what was really motivating me in life. What was my purpose? And that is the piece that a lot of people have missing, and they don't recognize. They don't know why they are doing the things that they're doing.
Mm.
You know, what is the purpose behind me saying what I just said to somebody that may have hurt them? Is it about them, or is it about me? And that goes right back to the self-awareness, you know.
Mm.
um, and then the compassion. Self-compassion is something, and compassion, it has to be self-compassion first, and then compassion for others. Because if you do not like yourself, you will do the wrong things,
Mm.
even for other people.
Yeah.
So
I would also say if you've got passion for other people, you're never going to take time for yourself
right.
as well. So it makes it very hard to help with that development.
Right. And then the final piece is the social skills, and learning how to put all of those principles together to live in cultures and societies, and to create win-win situations with people if possible. And sometimes leading them even to their own happiness when they're not even aware
Mm.
of that's happening, because I think a lot of people just really lack that self-awareness and accountability.
Yeah. I often think like, yeah, when what you just said there, I think should be the foundation for pretty much everyone in life.
Hmm.
The problem I always see what people often do, like they say they don't have enough time.
Hmm.
They do. Even if you've got 5 kids, you can find time to work
Hmm.
on these things. And I would say one of the things, especially in this 21st century world, like maybe if it was a couple of 100 years ago or whatnot, people don't actually take that sort of time to work on those skills, because it's one of those things where like people don't, I think also people don't see it as a skill, and to
Hmm.
improve in that, you can be naturally talented in one thing or the other, but raw talent doesn't actually get you a victory at the end of the day. It takes hard work to work on all of those sort of like core principles to make
Right.
you a better person. But people don't do it.
No, yeah, and also because there's been a constant push for success being the ultimate and end all be all of everything, and that mirror of what success
Yeah.
is been perpetuated by social media, by the powers that be, marketing, commercials, and then everybody starts to feel like a failure. But the moment you wake up and you make your bed, that can be a success.
Mm.
It's the new habits that you're forming, and the the effort you put into things that make things happen. I can think about where I was 2 years ago when I first started to now. I'm like, whoa, I can't believe this. I'm getting requests to be on podcasts, and I have a podcast, and I'm doing all of these things that I didn't think that I would be doing 2 years ago. So it's just about the going back and reflecting
Mm.
and actually savoring the experiences that you have created over in your life. Like I'm always kind of like, when I start to talk about my life to other people, oh yeah, well, you lived here, did it? And they're like, what? And to me, I'm like, it's just what happened. you know, it's not like, I telling these stories or experiences to get a pat on the back to say, oh yeah, no, this has just been my life, and it's just a series of choices that I'm accountable for the good and the bad, of it.
Yeah, I think with some when you go, yeah, I've lived here, I've been here, I've done this and done that.
Mhm.
Like this is the thing. There's the mindset of doing, and then there's the mindset of saying. And I
Mhm.
think everyone says, and like the whole thing is the power is in the doing, or the power is in the action,
Right.
and like people kind of, how can I say, they get a little bit shocked, sometimes jealous of when you go, I've done this, I've done that. And
Right.
especially if you're being blasé about it, it's like, just how did you do that? I just did it.
I just did it.
Yeah. Didn't
Just did
ask
it.
permission, didn't like, what I mean? Just did it.
And I really think that it's also when you get an audience, I think people of color really get that shock factor from people because they're constantly put in a box of how far they can go and what they can succeed at and what they can do because of the programming of the world. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And the the history of us in the world. So yeah, for many years, people were like, "What? You lived here? You did that?" And especially when I go back to the United States, it's kind of like you're not supposed to do this. I remember I had a friend of mine. I lived in Milan,
Yeah.
and I went on vacation with a group of friends. And while I was there on vacation, I had met these, I guess, pretty affluent and famous Italians. I didn't know who they were. I just they asked me if I wanted to go sailing on the boat. I said, sure, yeah, let's go, let's do it.
Is it
And
drinks? It's like, yeah, that's like, yes.
let's do this. And so that led into connections to another person. So I used to work with another teacher. I taught
Yeah.
English with them. And so I said, hey, I'm going to go to Rome and visit this friend I met on vacation. Do you want to go? And she goes, yeah, yeah, yeah. So um, I go there. Come to find out his family owns like this whole quarter of Rome since like the early 1600s. And it's like big money and he lives. And so I went to this jewelry shop and they were giving me the VIP kind of like treatment.
Yeah.
Right. And she pulled me aside and she's all, how do you get them to treat you like that? I said, I didn't even think about it. What do you mean treat me like what? I said, you're very important is a feeling that you have in yourself that radiates out to other people, no matter what you look like, no matter what gender you are, no matter what age you are. If you feel very important, like a very important person, it's going to reverberate out into the rest of the world.
Yeah. No, I
And
agree.
so,
Yeah, like, but this is the thing. It's sometimes it's very hard to sort of like find out where confidence comes from, because look,
mhm,
you like, especially if you've known someone for the longest time, you
mhm,
like, you know them at that point, and like
mhm.
one day you'll look at that person and go, how the hell did you become so confident with this, that, the other? Because you haven't seen that sort of little bit of growth here, growth there. You haven't witnessed
Yes,
all the
yes,
ins and outs of that journey. And
yeah,
when it comes to that and having self-belief, these are sort of like a couple of hard mantras to get, especially in this day and age where people are like told, like, yeah, you are not enough when you are enough. It's a case
yeah.
of you might have to push yourself and things might not come easy,
Hmm.
but believe in yourself, like go forward with confidence. And like, you know what I mean? Before you know it, maybe things will fall into place you never thought would fall into place, but you still got to go out there, believe, and do it.
Right. I think I call it, one of the things that I have kind of adopted for myself because I've seen that it works. And when I reflect back on the rest of my life, I never, prescribe to the grind. I do believe in that you have to move forward to do make things happen. You do have to do, but the really important thing to do is align, because sometimes if you get into this emotional state of I gotta go, 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 you
Mm,
actually miss opportunities that are coming towards you because you go like this when
yes.
you need to go like this a little bit too.
Okay.
you know because there's opportunities coming towards you all the time, but if you're just focused on this grind and you don't take the break
Hmm.
to reflect on where you just been, then you miss things, you miss opportunities, you miss people coming towards you that could help you get to the next step, or actually you may need a different direction to
Hmm.
get there. You may need to go this way instead
Okay.
of straight ahead. You know what I mean? So, I work every day
Yeah.
towards something, but I no longer adopt the ideals of success that have been programmed into me.
Mm. But like, this is the thing. So, like, success, like, I've people got to, I don't think people understand success is subjective to the individual.
Right.
And like, they like, if you take it for success as I have a Lamborghini, or like I've got a big yacht, or just like, yeah, I wear the latest designer clothes, that might be one person's idea of success. It's like,
Right.
and someone could be like, yeah, I've like raised my family, I've got like, they got food and I got a house, they got a roof over their heads, and like, yeah, I've got a job I do, or I've started a business which, you know what I mean, provides. And that's another version of success. And people like, I don't like, it comes down to, yeah, self-awareness again,
Hmm.
as you mentioned before, being that self-aware and like having that confidence to go, right, this is what my vision of success is, rather
Right.
than the BS version of success, that which
Right.
is cookie cutter and like sold to pretty much everyone.
Right. And also pretty toxic.
Mm,
Pretty toxic. It actually undermines your self-esteem more than um, inspires you to move forward, because when I look at society as it is now, I see a mental illness, and those people who step out of that lane are seen as the crazies, you
mm,
know when and then all of a sudden people start to wake up and there's a kind of a resonance. A lot of people are now understanding the importance of meditation, in Eastern philosophies on how to generate success, but mostly it's just generating peace of mind, self-awareness, figuring out what you really want out of your life. And that material things are nice and we need them in the current structure, but they're not the things that bring happiness. It's the experiences that bring really joy to people's life, you know, and to be able to think back on your life experiences and think, I did that. I love, reliving my life with my son. He goes, Mom, you did that? And I go, yeah, yeah, yeah. Me and my son, we have a pact that when he turns 19, not 18, 19, we're going to jump out of a plane together.
Ooh.
Yeah. Because, my goal when I had my son was to have a life that was bigger and better than the one that I grew up dreaming about. Because when I was a little kid, I didn't like my childhood. I had a lot of trauma. I had a lot of things that happened. And I remember staring at this Earth, Wind, and Fire album cover and said, that's where I need to go. That's where I want to go. That's home to me. This is not my home. What am I doing here? Really connected to another dimension of myself. And so that became my life goal, to go and see as much and experience as much as possible and try as many things as possible to really find out what I'm in love with. And then all of a sudden I woke up and I said, I like telling stories. I've been doing that my whole life. And I'm just now, that's what I'm good at.
So from encouragement from your son to put these stories out there, did you do anything with stories before that, or was it a case of you were what were you doing before?
Before that, well, before I had my son, I was traveling the world before I met his father. And I took a hiatus and helped him build some pretty successful companies, because before that, I worked in corporate America. I worked for FedEx for nearly 10 years and was a manager and did the whole corporate thing because I thought that was the thing to do.
Yeah.
I found it very unsatisfying, but I was doing it in Los Angeles. So there was this creative aspect around me. I had all these very creative TV, LA type friends around, and they were always encouraging me, you should do this, you should do this. But I also had this kind of awareness that all of it was fake, so I didn't want to make that a part of my life. Like that's what I'm going to do. I wanted to have authenticity, but it was fun. You know what I mean? I saw it. I used to say to my friends, they're like, oh, why don't you do this? Why don't you do what we're doing? And I go, I just like going to the parties.
It's yeah, LA party scene. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in.
Yeah, it's fun.
Do that. Yeah.
I liked that aspect of it, and I like to be on the periphery of it. But I did one TV show and I got enough attention that I realized that I did not want my life to be co-opted and judged at that time. Now is a different place because I'm a more confident person. Even then, I just change, you evolve. So attention that I get now for the things that I do now is because they're my purpose. It's not just because look at me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's not ever been my thing. It's never been my thing. So yeah, even though I know that people can get very successful and be very influential in those ways, I've also seen enough people in that world extremely unhappy.
Yeah, I can imagine, because the way I see it as I see it as an outsider, as you've got LA and then you've got Hollywood. And basically both sort of live together symbiotically. But if you're in LA, you're living a very, very different life to Hollywood, which is just as the restaurant chain used to be, Planet Hollywood. You're out there. your sort of day-to-day mingling, if you're in that world, must be quite surreal.
It really is, and it's really, and it's kind of like watching, I always stayed comfortably outside of it because I saw so much mental illness within it.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, it's so easy to fall into that lack of self-worth and being a size zero and all these material things and all that. Because it looks like, because our whole world is this big story.
Yeah.
Our whole lives is this big story. And if you don't notice, all of the things that we say are cool, or what we say are real, are actually based on a lot of fantasy. You know, friends living in an apartment in New York, and you're a bunch of broke students. How the hell are you going to afford a place like that? You know what I mean? But so many people strive for this fake reality,
Mm.
and it's completely fabricated. But they know, the people who create this stuff, they know that it creates a desire for their products, for the things that they want you to buy, the lifestyle they want you to live. It's all interconnected. And it just really feeds on your need to be a part of community and the tribalism, the reptilian brain. We want to find our our tribe, but they've done all these things to make sure we're divided and separated at the same time. So um, I just I'm always studying psychology, and I'm taking this really interesting course right now, and for it talks about the moralities of life. It's a Yale University course, and it's fascinating lecture was about the difference between chimpanzees and the bonobos. They're our closest primate um, ancestors.
Yeah.
Okay, and the difference is that chimpanzees, they live they are territorial. They go out in troops, go look around the parameter of their little spot. They will brutally kill and tear apart any non-member of their troop. They also keep the females separated. They have a tendency to rape not just the females, mature ones, but the children. They're very violent, and it's all because they live in scarcity. Chimpanzees live places where there are gorillas.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they live predominantly in the trees. Bonobos live in places where there are no gorillas. So they predominantly live on the ground, and they have the resources, and they can go get herbs and vegetation. And they're actually nutritionally more well-rounded because they live on the ground, but they're more peaceful. And they can live in multiple troops. They don't go around and monitor the territory. And then they have strong female groups. So the females basically kind of stay together, and they actually kind of are in charge, the matriarchal, and not in a violent way. It's just like, yeah, one of the things the bonobos do is they have sex all day, every day.
The bonobos.
Yeah, and they also do it with every gender. It's not exclusive. It's not male, female. It's male, male, female, female, whatever, and it's because they have more abundance and they're not as stressed. So there's rarely any violence within the bonobos group versus what happens in the chimpanzee. Now, which one are we mostly aligned with?
Well, like, you don't. Well, I know what the answer is, but yes, and like this is the thing. I've heard many a story about what chimpanzees do, like when they get jealous and stuff like this. There was this one time. This is what triggered it. there was a birthday cake. There was a number of chimpanzees, and it was this particular chimp's birthday.
Mm-hmm.
This this human, like, I can't remember if they were a zookeeper or if he just owned them, like in his house. Gave the birthday cake to this chimpanzee. This other chimpanzee got extremely jealous about this and basically attacked him. It was a horrific attack. Let's just say, like, mutilated guy didn't make it. But
Yeah.
all I've got to say was extreme mutilation.
Yep.
Utilization. And it was just like, okay. And chimps do that on a very regular basis.
They absolutely do. They absolutely do. And that's what we as human beings do on a regular basis too, because the current structures that we live in are based on scarcity when they really don't need to be. We have an abundance of resources, but the people who basically created the foundation of Western society, especially, knew that, you know, if they took the majority and make the other ones fight for a position, this is what was going to happen. You know, why? You know, it's the point of sharing. And there's a lot of people who will argue with me about this. You know, saying, "Oh, we need capitalism. Oh, you're talking about socialism or this and that." And I'm like, "No, we're talking about our nature. The bonobos and the chimpanzees are on the same level of our evolutionary ladder.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that humans chose to go this way more. Not that we don't like to have physical relations, but it's the because of it's mostly patriarchal. And one of the other things is that, you know, the females have to, you know, go to the ground like the males to get the vegetation, because they mostly live in the trees and they eat the fruit, right? Mm-hmm. That's not enough to be healthy. So they have to run to the ground and they have to sneak around and run away from the gorillas who, you know, are extremely territorial as well. You know what I mean? Territorial as well. It was stuck there. And so, but what they have, because they're always pregnant, are babies on their back. So they can't get down there and back up fast enough sometimes. So they don't get to congregate with other females. So they don't get to create the bonds in order to create the structure that's closer to the bonobos. And right now, I think we're in a very, especially in America, we're in a very, I would think in the UK too, we're in a very special situation where women are now getting more positions of power. Now in America, we're going to have a female vice president. And
let's be honest about that. Look, when you say vice president, like if Biden gets in, look. No.
We know.
It's like, look.
We know.
That guy, look, all I've got to simply say is that guy, that's like, I could like, hi, my name's Miwa. This is Trina. And I turn around, come back. Is that, hi, and have I met you before? Is that going, yes, I just met you now.
Yeah.
Miwa, this is Trina. It's like, yeah. Look,
you know who's gonna be running things.
Yes, don't be like, no one. If anyone tells me Biden's going to be in charge for about a year and a bit, and drift away. Look, and it's not the first time this has happened. Mm-hmm. Like the last time this happened, her name was Nancy Reagan, and she ran stuff for
That's right. That's right.
And before her was Eleanor Roosevelt, and
Barbara Bush too. You know, so, there's Michelle Obama.
Like this is the thing. I think Michelle Obama, if she decides to ever run for president, I think she'll have her time. But that's if she decides to run. I don't think she will. I think she's very self-aware. Yeah, I think she's like, I've done this. It was a pain. Mm-hmm. I don't need this in my life.
Yeah, because I want to curse somebody out, and I want to curse somebody out. So And I don't, yeah, I don't want to have to, yeah. You can see it on her face.
Oh yeah,
She's just,
yes.
she's telling somebody off like boom, 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 just like that, you know.
Yeah, no,
So
yeah.
yeah.
Just one quick thing about Michelle Obama. I was listening to her autobiography, and like
Mm-hmm.
one of the things what really stuck out, like when she was like going, yeah, she was like on the campaign trail, and like she was saying all the words, and she was like, yeah, and it was like people like going, yeah, they were losing, like every time she spoke, they were losing points, losing
Mm-hmm.
points, losing points. And then like her team got her, like went, okay. They sat her down and like this, and like she was like, what? I'm doing everything right, I'm passionate, everything. I was like, oh no, 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 no. Okay. They played it and they showed it to her when she was talking, and then they went, okay, now let's watch it again. And they played it back without any sound, just
Mm-hmm.
to show her. And it was like, she was like,
Oh.
I see. And it was just like, right. Um,
Yeah.
like you say, coaches need coaches, and like, yeah,
Right.
that's what coaching teaching moment. What like was like, okay, I need to.
Well, of course it's because also she is, you know, she's like, I'm a lawyer, I'm educated. I thought, you know, I'm doing this the right way, but you know, she also comes from where she comes from, and you know, we inherit certain things. That's one of the things around the parenting piece with EQ above IQ. I always express to parents and the parents that I'm coaching that there's no such thing as perfection,
Mm,
and there's always an opportunity to repair, you know, like, oh, Michelle Obama repaired what she wasn't aware of. And that's what the whole journey of about life is that becoming aware of what you don't know that you
yeah,
don't know. And so as a parent, you know, I have many mea culpas to my son, and and he appreciates each one, because what I'm actually teaching him is that I'm not perfect. I'm a human being, but I can also come back and hold myself accountable for the things that I have done wrong or said wrong because of the childhood programming and trauma that I have experienced. And I talked to him about it. I said, you know, I went through this and this, and that's why this comes out sometimes. And I'm sorry. I'm going to try to do better at that. And, you know, what I am building is a better, or what am I creating is a better human being through my negative experiences just as much as my positive.
mm.
And a lot of people don't realize that you can do that. You can do that in every relationship.
But wouldn't you say you're building two better human beings, yourself and
Hmm.
your son?
Hmm.
Because like this is the thing, like one of the things, I'm not a parent myself, but what I've like seen, observed, I've seen, I don't know.
Hmm.
Like one, like yeah, they're like little sponges, and they all take
Hmm.
in everything you like throw out there. uh yes, beware of a child who is quiet, because they are now watching and trying to learn as much as they can from that situation. Like yeah, and basically too, when you are going through this whole like realm of like, the closest I've been to being a parent is like
Hmm.
being a camp counselor,
Hmm.
like over it. And look,
That's a parent.
uh,
That's a parent.
yeah, highly stressed, everything like this. And yeah, you're trying to keep control of the roller coaster of chaos, which is a small human being. Yeah, it's just trying to keep that calm and then basically trying to work it all out. And that takes work on yourself, and it takes
Hmm.
work like helping that child become better. And
Yeah.
so like it's all, I see it always as a thing where you're working on yourself and you're working on that child to be better. Uh,
Right.
I think people often think I should just be working on the child.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, it doesn't work that way. It's also, the thing is a lot of people, like I said, get in that caught in that programming, and well, this is how I was raised,
Mm,
and then they don't reflect on how they actually feel about themselves, you
mm,
know, or where their hurts were. And I was like, well, if you are repeating the exact same thing because you're blocking your lesson,
yeah.
you're blocking your lesson, and you're blocking the gift that your child is giving you. every child is an opportunity to become a better version of yourself.
Mm.
And what we have grown up with is that our children are our burdens. And yes, that's, you can look at it. They're tiresome. They can be heavy. They're biological little beings. They're little narcs in the beginning. It's all kinds of stuff, you know. But you
You,
were there. You were there too.
it's like did you call them little narcs at the beginning?
Yes, yes, because they are. Do you think they care about you all the time? They got an itch that needs to be scratched, and I don't care. Get out of the way. Move.
It's like, it's like, that's how you remember the time. Just like,
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is, it's not their fault. It's just that's neuroscience. That's our programming as human beings, you know. But it's our responsibility as parents is to kind of like sit back, reflect on our own childhood, and say, well, I would say that the majority, I mean, you know, humanity has become less violent over the centuries, for that's for sure. And so um I don't want to beat it all up, but we're not there. We're not there.
No, but I think that's going to be a case of it's a long, like we're still on a long road of like progress. And like, look, if you like simply go, human beings in our current form have been around for 200, 300,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
Planet Earth's been around for 4 billion and counting.
Mm-hmm. Like, it always changes because we're always finding out something new. And that just depends on where, you know, where your brain is, like what you believe in, because you got the religious side, you got the, you know, you got the pagan side, you got all kinds of people, and you know, you've got the biohacking side where, you know, they're doing you know LSD and DMT and psychotropics, and they're like, hey, there's all kinds of stuff going on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, indeed I do. But like, this is the thing, I'm curious because you are a particular rare gem. Okay, the reason why I say this, okay, now, like someone to leave the States,
Yes,
to like, okay, I'm leaving the States is rare, because like you're like, hey, we got everything here. Like,
oh, there's all kinds of ones I've heard.
Yeah, yeah, but like, okay, but yes, leaving the States, California, to come all the way to Europe as like, yeah, you're a Black lady doing that, and you're like, I'm going to live here. Like, just purely from your personal experience, what benefits have you got from like leaving? Like,
so many. You don't understand. Okay, the first time I left the United States was when I moved to Montreal, Canada.
right.
And it was the first time I went,
How so?
I say it's energy. I say it's just the new terrain, the opportunity to be something other than what other people expect you to be, the freedom to get away from people who have maybe put you down, made you feel less than. It's amazing as a Black person, and a woman, and especially to get out of your bubble of existence, because you know you are no longer beholden, because what we do is we sometimes act out the expectations of others, even though we're not aware that's what we're doing. So when you get out of that bubble, you no longer have to do that. You get to start, it's like starting from scratch. And of course, you bring yourself with you, but there's aspects of yourself that are tightly connected to the environment that you are in. And for me personally, having left the United States was kind of just like a freedom. Like I felt a huge weight lifted from my shoulders. I felt like more autonomy, like countries that are the colonizers don't really look at the people, um, like the original colonizers of the United States were from Europe.
Yeah.
Okay. So when you come to Europe, they don't feel any threatening. They don't feel threatened. They're in charge. So you just go about your life. Of course, they are, of course, limiting a lot of people of color here. But for me, I try to look past those limitations most of my life. So you just feel an energetic wasa, you know. And yeah, that was the big one for me. I felt like, wow, I can be free.
Mm. Like, because with regards to America, which the like basically the selling tagline is the land of the free. Uh, I, I can talk about other things, war and drugs and stuff like that, but that's another story.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
but when you go, yeah, leave in America, you just felt this weight off your shoulders, and basically, and like now being in Amsterdam, which let's just say it is like the whole country's pretty much the size, half the size of New York State or something like this. You
Mm-hmm.
could fit into California a couple of times. Yeah, you're like, I have this sort of freedom from like expectations and stuff like this, like,
Mm-hmm.
and you say it with a real sense of relief.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that would surprise quite a lot of people.
Yeah, because they haven't experienced it. The thing that keeps Americans in America is fear.
Mm,
That's what keeps fear of the unknown. There's a big perpetuation of fear of like, wow, if you go over there, you won't have this or you won't have that. And the desire to just keep that sameness,
mm,
we're naturally nomadic as a species, you know and I feel like the only reason why we have been put into these regions or boxes is just a control mechanism to make sure that the certain amount of money and economy stays in the hands of certain people. You
mm,
need slaves to build the country, just like they did. They needed slaves, so because they didn't want to do it themselves. So that I'm also a person that believes in energy and the sort. I think that when you live someplace where the foundation is built on that much brutality, death, um, and trauma,
mhm,
then it's in the air. It's in the legislation. I mean, it wasn't until 1965 that slavery was not allowed federally in every single state. There's yeah. So as a person of color, to know that I'm that not that far removed from a time where I had zero rights to exist, and there's a lot of structures put in place, and as you can see what's happening in America right now with race relations. I saw it coming when Trump went into office, and that's when I was like, we backing up. Let's go.
now
I,
that
w- I was out there watching for many years,
yeah.
so it's different. And once you get out of the bubble, you also can think more critically.
Mm. Like one of the things I'm curious of, like for your own sort of personal experience, like now you get out of the bubble and now you're like meeting other people of color from other parts of the world.
Hmm.
Like, is there a different vibe they give off compared to what you give off? Because like you,
Oh, absolutely.
it's like, yeah, I'm just like because like this is the thing, like I understand the history of America. I understand like with regards to slavery and this and like basically, yeah,
Hmm.
what's like the civil rights movement, what that came in and like segregation in schools, which didn't really sort of get truly abolished either in 1970, 1974
Mhm.
and like basically moving forward. But for myself, when it comes to the slavery aspect and stuff like this, I'm saying this as someone who's like parents originate from Nigeria and being born and raised in the UK. And like this is the thing. Yeah, we've got our troubles. Like we've got our troubles here. It's not like Shangri-La, but
Mhm.
there's that sort of thing. I can't sort of like when someone goes, slavery, listen, I was like,
Yeah, no, it's different for you because you don't digest it in the same way. When here's one of the things that a lot of Africans don't get about Americans, Black Americans, African Americans, is that we were robbed our family connections. We were robbed of our identity. And that is a huge part of building one's self esteem and understanding oneself.
mm,
So we struggle with the oppression, but also knowing thyself, where we come from, who we're from. And then we also sometimes have the conflict of being multiracial. I am multiracial too.
mhm,
So, but only seen as one
yeah,
and not being able to express all of who I am. You don't have that problem, especially because when you come from Africa or your parents came from, there's such a pride of self. That's been my experience with my African friends, and that they don't really get it. And also, they see the propaganda of TV, and they think we got it good. And I'm like, no, we have it different, but we don't have it good per se.
yeah,
Some of us have it better than others, but not everybody is living the rap lifestyle and all that stuff that is always perpetuated through the media. And so, and I know there's extreme poverty in certain parts of Africa as well. And I know right now you guys got that what is it, SARS or something? What is that? The police
like
force?
that, like yes, there was like this
Yeah,
can't remember the
special.
exact name, but it was a special police like
Yeah,
agency in
yeah.
Nigeria,
There's a lot of.
which have, how can I put it? They have a certain level of corruption, which has been perpetrated through every sort of uh, evolutionary stage of this particular unit. So it's like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So, and which
So
is not going anywhere soon. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. So every place has its issues with the problem, but you don't have the identity thing, and I think that's a huge piece. I think it's a huge piece, and I think that's why a lot of African Americans do the DNA tests, and they're trying
Yeah.
to figure out what tribe they came from and what part of Africa they came from. And they miss home. There's a longing, but there's also a fear to go there, and also there's a sense of rejection as well. I dealt with that a few times.
Mm, mm. Like, interesting. Very interesting. Like, what I would say is like, with regards to fear, there is nothing to fear but fear itself. With
Exactly.
regards to that, um, and the sort of aspect of getting out of the United States and sort of visiting other places. And look, don't get me wrong, like especially in the state of California, where you can be on the beach in the morning and you can be like, well, snowing, like snowboarding in the evening because you've
Mhm.
got that sort of diversity. It's a you've got that's a very sort of blessed situation to be in.
Mhm.
I have to go from here in the UK to at least three different countries two before I can
Mhm.
like say that. But I would simply say, yeah, there's lots of opportunities out there, and like getting out there and seeing the world a little bit more would be helpful on many a scale. And yeah, uh, I don't I don't know about yourself. Like you're in Amsterdam right now, and I don't have this sense you'll be coming back to America anytime soon. If you are going to do anything, I think you'd most probably move to another European country or something like that first.
Yeah, I'm actually. I really love Southeast Asia. I
Hmm.
lived in Indonesia for almost a year, and what I have found in my many travels around the world is that the warmer the climate is, the warmer the people are.
Ah,
And so, one of the things we were talking about, the differences between the Black people here is I I'm interpreted as fake because I smile a lot, or I'm friendly,
Well,
and I'm like, no, I'm just friendly. That's kind of just my vibe. Sorry, I know you're not. I'm not, because that friendliness usually has something to do about you want something from me,
mm.
and I don't want anything from anybody. If I do, I probably would just directly tell you.
No, no, no. I understand that. Like, this is the thing. I'm pretty much like a lifelong Londoner. So
Uh-huh.
like, yeah, I've like lived in Cambridge for about 2 years. But like, yeah, like uh, you like you take a Londoner and you put them anywhere else in the country, and where
Mhm.
people like say hello, it's like the reaction be like,
Why are you talking to me?
you'll get a reaction, and I catch myself doing it. I'm like going, uh, hello.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
And
not
I
like,
always wonder what that is. I always wonder what that is. What is it, the fear of being taken advantage of, or you know, in one of my the very first podcasts, I talked about the globalization of the world, and the trauma that it caused. And I did a lot of research of history, and having lived in Europe, I understand. And I studied a lot about the Roman Catholic Church and its influence. But one of the things people don't realize is that there was so much feudal fighting and religious fighting, and there were no class. There was the royal class, and you were poor. That was it. And then there was people that catered to that got a little nudge up, but you bent your body and everything else to the will of these people.
mhm.
Within the church, within the hierarchy, and that was a lot of trauma. We in America, it's come out a lot about the Roman Catholic Church and the pedophilia. This is 1,000 years institution. This is not new. This is old stuff,
Yeah,
and they went around the. So what happened is that you got all these people who were basically probably beaten constantly or forced into religion through torture and all kinds of things, just constantly in the state of fear. And they took that, muskets, ships, and went out into the rest of the world and divvied it up and did exactly the same thing that was done to them. So that's the whole thing about trauma. If you're not aware of it, or if you justify it, like, well, that's how it is. That's what's supposed to happen. We're the superior race or whatever. They will
manifest
perpetuate.
destiny.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what's happened. If you take a look back, I think if the majority of Europeans within the United States and outside took accountability for their history in a factual, not the rewritten way, that we would have a massive amount of healing.
Yeah, but like, this is the thing with regards to history and all of its, like, with all of its teachings, like, there is no such thing as a true like a true history, as they say. Like, it's a sword. There's like a three-pronged sword. There's their side, your side, and then the truth. And the truth, like, basically doesn't really seldomly come into it. And like, this is the thing. It always, like, I kind of smile when people like go, but yeah, you like, they try to get on their high sort of high mighty horse about how virtuous their country is or anything like this. And like, you go, look, look, uh, don't be saying that, because I am no historian, but like, if
Yes.
you dig deep enough, there is blood on everyone's ledger, and like, yeah, atrocity or two. So
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
get high mighty about it. Like, wherever you are in the world, like,
Yeah.
be that in Europe, or be that sort of distant, far-flung parts of Australasia. There is
Mm-hmm.
like there's always something there, and people like go, oh well, but it was like no. So don't like you have like your country, your sort of like past will have history there. You weren't directly involved, but don't sort of like use that to be more superior than someone else.
Right, right. And that's what it is a big dose of humility would be grateful, for everyone. But like you said, there's the truth of history and then there's the written one.
Mm,
And as the truth of history starts to come out more and more and can't be denied, I think right now, there's a big fear of a loss of power in America. And that's because they've been sheltered for a very long time, and now the history of what's actually happened and the contributions to the basically extermination of the Native Americans and everything else is coming to the forefront, and they're freaking out.
yeah, like this is like one of the things I would simply say is like I don't see why. I would simply say, look, yeah, that is part of your history. Like,
Hmm.
look, like accept that
Hmm.
and like do something to like do something for better for tomorrow. It's like
Hmm.
build for that. And like this is the thing, don't get caught up in your history. Build for tomorrow, build for the future, build for something better for like the generations will come after you. And
Yeah.
yeah, be proud in that.
Yeah, exactly. It's to me, I always say take account,
Mm,
because it's important to take account, because when you don't take accountability, you don't learn.
mm,
So then take responsibility. And that doesn't mean to be in shame. That means to be respond differently. You have an ability to respond differently. That's all responsibility is.
mm,
So it's not saying you're a bad person. Yeah, of course, your family, I hear, oh, I didn't own slaves. My family didn't own slaves. We were poor. We were this. And I said, but you benefit from a structure, and so you take account of that
mm,
piece and then respond differently to create a system where our children will, and your children too, will all be better off. It's an obligation. We don't, there's a Native American um, saying around, the difference between rights and obligation. We don't have rights as humans, we have obligations. And our obligation is to make sure we left the earth and the planet a better place than when we were on it.
mm,
And that's our obligation, because that actually is the only thing that makes sense. And that's why I do what I do, because I feel by teaching these principles to children, especially, and the inner child, I help my child's children in the future. I have an obligation to try to do better than what was done for me. And if I know what was done badly and I keep perpetuating it, it's an ugly cycle.
mm. Indeed, indeed. Very true, very true. I must ask, like, what is like the plan for the next 6 months, a year, 18 months from now?
Woof. Well, we'll see what happens with COVID. Okay, so that has really thrown a wrench into everything that I was doing. I was in schools. I teach a course called Mindful Storytellers,
Mm,
where I teach children how to write a book using the 5 principles of emotional intelligence, and then I publish a book with their names on it, and it was great. It's a great course, but because the schools in COVID, there's no after school programs and they're not letting us in. So that kind of went, "Hmm." And I've been trying to switch that online. So I offer it to online now. And so I also, like I mentioned, I'd love to see what Southeast Asia has to offer me and my son, because I'm looking for opportunities in Malaysia and in Indonesia
mm.
and places like that to have that additional experience. for my son and for myself, because I can pretty much teach anywhere. And let's see. So if the borders get open again, that's that's possible, because all of that I do is mostly online. And also I am working on this EQ above IQ parenting program, so that parents can really dive into and start working on their inner child and learn to reparent through their children, through their parenting. And I think more of us need to do that. Like, I always say, sometimes when you are feeling down, go hug your kid, and then envision it's you.
Mm.
My son said, "Hey, that's a little like you're using me. What about my hug?" I said, "You get the hug anyway. I can piggyback on the hug. You know, you get to feel it. I can feel it too."
It's like, child, look, your son look at you like a, it's like a,
Are you using me?
yeah, it's like a, I feel like, no, I've listened to that excuse before. No. When I was younger, you got me there, but no.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, one day he's gonna come up to you. Hey, man, looks like you need a hug. Oh, come on. I just like, he'd be like, what do you want, boy?
Right.
Yeah.
No, he's been. I One of the things that I didn't receive enough was of hugs, and so he has been hugged up and loved up from the beginning, and to the point of annoyance. Okay, mom, that's enough.
Look,
That's
look.
enough.
Now, this is the thing. There's the classic parent method, which I see all mothers do to their child, where they just get a tissue.
No.
I have, look, every child has been that child where they've been trying to flee from their parents. It's like, no. Why are you?
That stopped several years ago, actually. I think he was around 4, and he was like, "Mom, that's your spit." I go, "So what? You're made of my spit."
No.
No. No, I don't. I usually now I say, "Hey, you got something here," and he'll go,
whereabouts? And you're like,
No, that's been gone for a while. But yeah, now it's more like, yeah, your hair is a little out of place. He's like, "Mom, it doesn't matter." I go, "You're right. It doesn't matter." My programming. Yeah, I look away.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's gonna make me smile all day, I can tell.
Well, then I've done my job. I've done my purpose.
There you go. I have to say, I am a being of supreme cosmic power.
Awesome.
Minus the small itty bitty living spaces, but nevertheless, yeah, I have the power to grant you one wish. Like, one of the things is, you cannot wish for world peace. No, you can't. And you can't wish for an infinite amount of wishes. You can't wish for, write out a list and then go, yeah, I wish everything on this paper would.
Oh, man.
No.
That's exactly what I was going to do.
Yeah, what can I say? I know the tricks. If I could grant you one wish, what would that wish be?
Oof. The fortitude to continue to move forward in my purpose, even when I feel like I want to give up.
That inner strength. Okay. Yeah, no worries. What I will do, I'll get working on that.
Yes,
right
please. And also $2 million would help too.
You had your one wish. Is that you had your one wish?
No, well, that'll come anyway.
I am sure of it. Now, I would like to say, could you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you, how they can get in contact with you on this?
Oh, well, you of course, like we talked about social media. I'm on Instagram at this underscore real underscore life underscore books. And then I'm on Facebook at This Real Life Books, and also on LinkedIn with This Real Life Books. Basically, just put in This Real Life Books and it's there. And then the website is thisreallifebooks.com. I offer coaching for EQ-based coaching and cognitive behavioral therapy. And yeah, it's and I teach the mindful storyteller class on Zoom as well, and can get your kids to have fun and write a story and learn collaboration and the 5 principles. So yeah, I think those are all the places.
Superb. Trina, I would like to say thank you for coming on today. You have been exceptional. You've been
thank you.
And hey, I definitely would look forward to having you back on the podcast again in the future. Yes.
Yeah, it'd be a pleasure. A big pleasure. I appreciate you reaching out and allowing me to express my purpose to you and hopefully influence some hearts to do the same.
Oh, awesome. Yes, I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors out there. Please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world and then some. Have a great day, guys.
Oh, sorry.
Yes, out.